When I'm asked what the big difference is between the movies of the 1970s and those of the 80s, I say that in the 70s, the best directors were trying to make the great American film, and in the 80s, they were trying to make the great American hit. The career of one director in particular dramatizes that, and his name is Robert Altman. From MASH in 1970 right up through his latest film, Vincent and Theo, which we just reviewed, he's insisted on expressing a distinctly personal vision. And in the 70s, that made him one of the hottest directors around, but not in the 1980s. Indeed, when Vincent and Theo premiered at the Toronto Film Festival last month, one Toronto paper referred to it as his first film in 10 years. They were overlooking TV movies, a TV series, and 8 theatrical films, but that slip was very revealing.
I imagine that a lot of people who don't really follow films think of you as somebody who has been inactive for a while. How does that make you feel?
Well, I don't think about it very much. It depresses me a little bit that that my worth is gauged on those scales. Mm-hmm. But whose isn't?
Altman's first big hit was MASH, which made stars out of Elliott Gould and Donald Sutherland.
I think you will find these accommodating. They're quite dry. Don't you use olives?
The Ella Jake Western McCabe and Mrs. Miller was an unforgettable collaboration with Warren Beatty and Julie Christie. Nashville won 5 Academy Award nominations, including those for Best Picture and Best Director, and it's considered one of the best films of modern time. But in the 80s, as his personal style fell out of favor, Altman shifted gears from big-budget Hollywood productions to smaller, more venturesome films like Secret Honor, a one-man soliloquy showing Richard Nixon agonizing over Watergate.
Watergate was nothing more than a misdemeanor, copping a plea, a third-rate burglary.
And Fool for Love, starring playwright Sam Shepard and Kim Basinger in a version of Shepard's play. To a lot of people, it looked like Altman's career was in decline in the 1980s, but not to Robert Altman.
I run into people today and they say, oh God, I love your new picture, it's just great. Has it been just terrible for you since, you know, when Popeye failed? Mm-hmm. And I read in the paper today in a review saying after many miscues, and they keep saying Popeye was such a failure. Popeye was no failure.
Popeye made a lot of money.
Yeah, and it was not perceived by me as a failure in any sense. I mean, I think it was a wonderful film. But at the time, the press generally was that Popeye wasn't Superman. It didn't do the numbers that Superman did.
Thanks.
Today, if a film isn't in the top 5, 10, people don't even know it's there.
The notion of personal filmmaking seems to have died out.
Well, they're not marketed, and they don't even get through the cracks. The news services, the main newspapers, especially the television, they sit and support the market value of these films. My feeling is if I come up and say, hey, I want to do this film about this one guy sitting in this room, and it's not going to cost very much, I had to finance that Nixon film myself.
Roberto, would you erase all that crap, please?
In the 70s, though, and in the 60s, they also had big studio releases, and yet at the same time, audiences seemed more aware of art films.
That's because at that time, when you were starting, the critics at that time were pushing that end of it. In other words, you people made that possible. The media makes a great deal of difference in how they approach films. The hype has come along, all this stuff that usually you read about films that's in the entertainment section should be on the business page. There's no room for smaller films.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of truth in what he says. We've enjoyed his films like Secret Honor and Fool for Love and Five and Dime over the last 10 years, but unless a movie has a $10 or $20 million advertising budget these days, it's real hard for it to find a hearing.
I don't think that critics are the big problem that he's saying right now. Some of the media, the entertainment media, you know, keeps pushing the top 5 grossing films every week and all that. We don't do that. We critics are still interested in his work when it's very good. I put Secret Honor on my 10 best list. We'll review him here. He ran into having some pictures like the Paul Newman film Quintet not doing any business at all, and so he was considered box office poison out in Hollywood. That's much more, I think, what happened to him. And I don't think the studios are interested in his quality kinds of pictures, the personal film, as much. And that's their problem.
Well, the point is, I think that Robert Altman has not gone away. Robert Altman is still making good movies, and whether or not millions of people are going to them or not, he has nothing that he has to feel bad about when he looks to
if anybody wants a film to rent of his in the last decade, I would say Secret Honor is the one. Philip Baker Hall, I believe, is the actor who plays Nixon.
Great performance.
Great film.